This is a 1975 Honda Elsinore MR50. A baby Elsinore, if you will. A very young, this guy found this exact bike under his Christmas tree, Christmas morning, long about, I don't know, maybe 1979, something like that. So these are pretty special to me. It's a pretty rare bike. You never see them. They made them for 2 years. They made a 1974, 1975. And 74, it had a red gas tank, totally red with red fenders. But 75 had this two-tone gas tank that was a little more Honda Elsinore. Honda Elsinore was a name dubbed for a lot of Honda's like MX bikes back in the 70s. Of course, they were like 125s and 250s, and I want to say the Elsinore name carried all the way up into the early Honda CRs, like the CR maybe 480s and 500s. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure they did. What makes these special is they were kind of aimed toward the junior MXer market, and being a 1 year only color scheme, it's really interesting. They had a couple of these sell for pretty good money back not too long ago. So to have one, especially that's relatively complete, it's a pretty cool thing. Needs a lot of work, needs a lot of little things done to it. As you might imagine, being a 1 year only bike, parts are going to be incredibly hard to find. There's a couple of companies out there, ReMX and another one, that has some things available for it. But that's what's going to happen in this video. We're going to start with a teardown of the top end of this thing, because I'm pretty sure I'm really low on compression. So we're going to end up having to send this thing out, have it bored, buy a piston, buy some rings, get it running right, and then we're going to go ahead and take care of the seat cover. We're going to take care of the tank, get it painted nicely, clean the bike up, get it up and running, and just kind of sit back and enjoy it. So welcome to Project Time Garage. Needs a few things, and I want to kind of run over real quick and just show you all the little bits and pieces that I know the thing needs, and we'll get in a little more to what I expect from this project and realities, I guess, of the project. Let's start off at the front with the whole forward control section. We know we're going to need a front brake lever for sure. We may end up having to get an entire twist throttle assembly. It's I don't know, it's real janky. It's not working the carburetor. The float or the slide may be stuck on the carb, I don't know. But I know we need a set of hand grips for this side and for this side. These are here, but I think that's the original one. Also going to need a clutch lever. So pretty much everything in the forward control department needs to be addressed. Handlebars are in pretty good shape. There's a little bit of light rusting here. Don't know if it's pitting or not, but I have a feeling that some steel wool might take care of that. We're lucky in that the number plate, the little front brake cable retainer is all there, and as is the front fender. It's actually in really nice shape. I have both dust covers, this side and this side, so those are intact. The front brakes, all that's in pretty nice shape. Spokes, they're a little bit rusted. I don't know what we'll be able to do with those, hopefully something. But the rims are in good shape. I put tires on this thing back years and years ago just because I found them somewhere. So I went ahead and put them on, but they've been on there probably 15 years. For the gas tank, it's in really good shape. I don't believe there are any dents in it whatsoever. And on the inside, it's really not so bad. Being a two-stroke premix bike, that helps the tanks out a whole lot. Carburetor and all that is very much intact. One of the things that we are missing is that seam right there around that alternator cover. There's supposed to be a rubber dress-up thing that goes around that's missing. Also, the chain guard here is missing. Well, it's broken. I still have it, but it's broken. Another common thing on these bikes. Nice to see that decal is in place and looks okay, as does the side cover. Gear shift, believe it or not, it's bent a little bit, but it's not broken. Sporting its factory kickstand. Everything back here is, as far as I can tell, factory. Rear fender is also in really good shape, pretty nice. This is the wrong nut here, should be an acorn style nut. Our seat, the foam feels okay, needs to be recovered. We'll take care of that too. This is another hard piece to come by. These are usually dented and dinged and rough looking, but that one's nice. As is the guard for the head pipe. Usually that thing's hard to come by. This one's in nice shape. Gonna need a old dipstick cap. We're gonna need a new rubber for the Kickstarter. And we're gonna do something about that foot peg. It is missing in action. Okay, well, what about runnability? Does the bike run? It did. I know that it did run. It used to run. Heck, it was new once, right? It has ran since I have lived in this house, which has been, oh, I don't know. It probably ran 10, 15 years ago, for sure, that I heard. Thing is, it had really low compression. It was an absolute bear to get started. Once it started, it ran fairly okay, but it didn't have a lot of power. I did do a cylinder compression test on this thing, and I got something like 48, 50. I was real surprised that it started on that compression. It's a two-stroke premix 25-to-1 engine, single cylinder, obviously. But check out the compression. Yeah, I shouldn't be able to do that easy with my hand. You can hear compression, but there's not much of it. Nobody sells a standard bore piston for this bike that I found, and I don't really know what I've got here. So the first step of this project is I'm gonna get the fuel tank and the front seat off. I'm gonna get the head and the jug off of it, and we're gonna just go ahead and measure that and see what we've got. Based on what we've got, we'll go ahead and order the next size up piston, the next size from wherever we're at. I'm afraid that the next size up piston still may be too small. I don't know how much wear I've got. I'm afraid I might have to go like 20 over or something like that. So we'll get it out of there, we'll measure it, we'll see where we're at and what the next step up is, see what the scoring looks like, make a decision on what piston to order. We'll drop the jug and the piston and the rings off at the machine shop, let them go ahead and punch it, bring it back, then we'll see what we've got as far as runnability. I'll bet running will be good at that point. But before we do any of that stuff, let's give the thing a bath because it's long overdue. The thing is absolutely filthy and pitiful looking. Plus, we don't want to get our nice clean digits dirty working on the thing, do we? Let me get set up. We'll fire up the pressure washer and give it a bath. In here, we've just got purple power and I don't know, some other junk. In here, we have nothing. I need to go mix something up. Purple power, simple green, some water. Well, it looks much better after a quick bath, doesn't it? Not perfect, but tons and tons better. So the game plan is going to be to get the seat off, get the tank off, get the head off of it, and pull the jug. Then we're going to measure that jug, the bore, and see what that is. We'll go ahead and measure the piston too, just because they're overachievers and it sounds like a lot of fun on a super hot summer day. And we'll know what we have to order at that point. All we should have to do is just loosen this up a little bit, be able to slide that seat backward. It would really love to fall off this jack. Seat. Should be a bolt and a rubber piece under there. Last guy that worked on that probably lost that, didn't they? Quick disconnect to the fuel line. We'll get our fuel hose pliers. This fuel line here is this silicone stuff. It's good stuff. There we go. Should just be up and back. Okay. Still fuel in there. With this being a two-stroke bike, it's kind of a known thing that you're going to give it a set of rings and a top end refresh every so many hours of riding. That's just the nature of a two-stroke. So as a result, they're, especially these air-cooled ones, they're really simple to work on. It's very, very easy to get the top end off of it and get the jug off. Nothing like some of the water-cooled bikes where everything's kind of buried in there. This is a 10-minute ordeal to get all the way down to where you want to go. So let me show you what's involved there. We have 2 bolts holding the head pipe to the head, and we have 4 nuts here, 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 holding the head on. At that point, it's a matter of picking the head up and pulling the jug. That's basically it. We'll start with the head pipe. I intend to take all these bolts I take out and put them right back in where they came from. Now, since this exhaust is all one piece, we'll need to take a bolt out right here that holds the spark arrestor up to the frame of the bike. At that point, it should slide forward enough, I believe, to at least get us loose. There we go. I'm just going to stick that bolt right back in there. At this point, head pipe is free, and we can move on to getting this this head loose. Get the plug wire out of the way. This one's pulling the whole stud out, which is fine. It's not a big deal. We need to probably pull the stud out anyway, make it a little easier to get that jug off later. Let's see if the head is somewhat okay to come off. You got to be really careful taking these off or you will break those fins. I'm going to start by trying to rubber mallet just to see if I can kind of shock it loose. If that doesn't work, we'll have to pry, but we don't want to pry. If you do have to pry, make sure you pry on a place that has a lot of support. Don't just pry out there on the open fins. There we go. All right, head off. There's our head gasket. From there we can see our piston. Doesn't look too bad. we'll look at it together when I get it off there. But before I do that, I need to take the carburetor loose here too. Okay, so to get this jug off, I went ahead and put vice grips here on these front studs and pulled them out. The back studs came out, you know, automatically, I guess. These, I pulled them out. I unhooked the carburetor, and that should give me just enough room to get it off the head there. See? So at this point, it's just a matter of finding the pry point, and this one has a little pry point right here that will let you pry up on that. Now there's a gasket down here. It's a base gasket. It's going to tear. It's not going to be reusable, or I'm not going to reuse it. But at this point, it's pretty much just a matter of pulling your head or your jug off. So let's take this over to the bench and we'll have a look at it. And I think I want to go ahead while I'm here and pull this piston out too. Piston's held in by this little clip here that's probably about too hard for you to see, but that little clip right there, the wrist pin, is held in with that. And I believe this wrist pin just floats. I do believe. I don't think that it's pressed it. I think it comes out pretty easy, if I remember right. Okay. There. So that's the piston. Let's go look at it at the bench. Well, now's the part of the game where we actually measure some things and see if our cylinder is worn beyond the service limit or not. This is our jug. You can look down there and you can see that it's actually not in bad shape. It doesn't look really scored up. A person could probably hone this and potentially put it back in service. But this cylinder has a specified diameter from the factory, right? And that specified diameter was right about 40 millimeters. With time and use, that cylinder bore will get, you know, considerably larger because you got a piston banging up and down in there, you know, for a lot of years. So it's going to cause some wear. Not only will it cause wear, but it'll cause wear in weird ways. So the front and rear of the jug could have more wear on it and make the cylinder egg shaped. So we got to figure all that out before we just buy a set of rings for this and see where we're going. So let me show you what I found online. I don't have a service manual for this thing, but the interesting thing is the original owner's manual shows some information. Check this out. This is the owner's manual for the bike. Crazy what kind of information they used to put in there in those days. So it says that the bore is 40 millimeters and the stroke is 39.6. But the company ReMX, they actually sell piston kits, and you can see down here that, you know, the first over kit is going to be 40.25 millimeter piston. But more importantly, they show you how you should measure your bore to determine what you have. The big thing that's a takeaway here is the standard value for this bore should be around 40.00 millimeters with a little bit of tolerance of 0.01 millimeters. So basically, if you're 40.00 to 40.01 millimeters, you're at the standard value with no wear. If you are greater than 40.1 millimeters, then you're outside the service limit and you either need to replace your jug or you need to hone it and go with the next size up, the next size up piston if you can. So let's do that first. Let's go ahead and measure ours and see how close we are to 40.00 millimeters. Now there's several tools that we will use, or we could use, to make these measurements. What I'm going to use is a bore gauge set. And now I want to stop you also real quick here. Any of this stuff here, if you need any of this, you can find all of it out on the Amazons. Everything that I have here on Amazon. Bore gauges, vernier caliper, digital caliper. You can find all of this out there. And I'm just so helpful that I'm gonna put a link right down below in the description box of the video. You know, scroll down under the video and you'll see a read more, like the description of the video and all that stuff. I'll put that there. That direct Amazon links. And also, if I can remember, I'll go ahead and I will make a comment and I will pin a comment with links to where you can find this stuff. It's pretty cheap stuff. And I'm sure it's not, you know, you're not gonna go build rockets to take yourself to the moon. They're not that precise. But for doing the average everyday hobbyist stuff, it's absolutely perfect. I've never had a problem with it. So anyway, let me show you how this works. I'm gonna start with a bore gauge. And this particular bore gauge goes between 32 and 54 millimeters. If you'll recall, I'm in 40 millimeter. That's what I'm expecting to be measuring. And the ways these things work is the end of them here will loosen and tighten, right? This part is spring loaded, see? So I can squish it in to a certain value, then I can tighten this up and it maintains that. Then I can undo this and let it go. Now, measuring the actual cylinder. This is the way the cylinder orients. No, is that right? Yes, this is the way the cylinder orients in the engine. This is the front where the exhaust hooks up. This is the rear where the carburetor is. The information that I found says that we need to measure it this way and then again this way. So we're gonna come out with two measurements, right? And remember, we are 40.00 for a factory spec. Anything over 40.10 is going to be outside the service limit, non-usable part, right? So to do this, I'll start this way. Now, it's also important that you go far enough down in the cylinder in order to take this measurement, because right up at the very top, the rings don't really have a lot of travel up there. But as you get further down in the cylinder, you're definitely down to where wear is happening. So deal is, we're going to get this thing just as straight up and down as we can get it, and we're just going to turn the end, which locks it down. Once we have that, we'll just rock backwards and pull it out, and it has kept that measurement. So it's just as simple now as getting out our calipers. We need to zero them out. We're looking for 40.0. Okay, so I'm at 40.12. I'm already outside the service limit measuring that direction, but just for fun, let's go ahead and measure this way also. So I'm gonna loosen these back up. We're gonna stick them back down in there. Try to get them as perfectly straight up and down as we can. Rock it out. Going this way, we're 40.08. So that tells me that my cylinder is two things. Number one, it's out around because it's narrower going across than it is measuring front to rear. So it's called out around, or egg-shaped. And the other thing is it's out of service limit going front to rear measurement. So I'm over that 40.10, right? And I'm way over that 40.01. So that means that this jug is a no-go. This jug needs to be either bored or replaced. And in this case, here's what we're gonna do. So I believe what we're gonna do here is we're gonna order a piston that is the first oversize, meaning that I need to bore this cylinder to 40.25, or have it bored. I'm not gonna bore it, but it needs to be bored to 40.25. Basically, I'll take this cylinder, which is considerably under 40.25, and I'll take my new piston that is set for a 40.25 bore to the machine shop, and I'll say, hi, please bore this cylinder to 40.25 or 40.26. That's the tolerance. and ensure that piston fits and has all its proper clearances and all that junk, which shouldn't be a problem for any machine shop in the world. So the next step, we're going to order that, and then we'll resume this project when we get our piston and our rings back in and get this back from the machine shop. At that point, it should be 30 minutes to reinstall and go ripping up the driveway. Big man, little bike. Should be a lot of fun. You guys stand by for a minute. Well, about a week's gone by now since the end of that last video where I said in a minute. I'm having trouble finding a place to drop off the cylinder to get it bored. There's tons of machine shops around that have cylinder boring service, but none of them can handle a piston that small. None of them have tooling small enough for that. So I think what I'm going to have to do is take this jug and send it out to the company I bought all the parts from, RMX, and have it done. So it's got to go all the way to, like, I think they're in maybe Idaho or somewhere. They're somewhere in the Midwest, I believe. So that's going to take a while. That being said, oh, and I did drop the tank off too. The tank's at the paint shop. I figure it's probably going to be at least a couple of weeks on it, maybe longer, who knows. So that is a good place to end this video. I think we're getting close to a half hour in it anyway, and really a half hour for a video is plenty long enough. Most people tend to want to drop off after 20 minutes or so anyway. So we're going to stop it right here, and we're going to pick it back up on the next episode with, we'll probably do some cleanup stuff when all the parts get here. I ordered a lot of stuff for it, new seat cover, new forward controls, handle grips, and all that stuff. We'll probably do some of the beautification on the bike while we're waiting on the cylinder and the fuel tank to come back. So at least it'll give us something to do as a second installment. On the second installment of this, if we can get the stuff here in time, we'll finish the project the next episode. But if I get all the beautification done and a week or so goes by, I'll probably put the second video out next week of the bike beautified and waiting on the jug and the tank. So it just depends on when I get parts back. I don't want to have videos that sit out here and get old, you know, and we all forget where they were. So anyway, I appreciate you watching, guys. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and tell all your friends about us. Guys, I'll see you next time.